Welcome to Great Talking Entertainment. I am your host, KJ, and this is the podcast where I review movies and TV shows from all your favorite superheroes, including Marvel Comics, DC Comics, and much more. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment official channel. Now let's go, baby. Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the podcast, Great Talking Entertainment official channel, only on YouTube. And this series I'll be doing is the spoiler review for the new Disney Plus series by Marvel Animation. X-Men 97. I will be reviewing episode 1 and 2, and of course, again, this is a spoiler review, so if you have not seen them, go ahead, watch them, come back, listen to the spoiler review, let me know how you feel in the comments, tell me what you think about each episode and where you think this is all going, let me know in the comments below. So, again, this is a spoiler review, so if you have not seen it, y'all been warned. Let's get into it. This episode, the first episode, starts off with a group of rebels of basically non-mutants, humans, capturing mutants for money, dead or alive, presumably. As we're getting a new character named Roberto, who we knew later is Sunspot, and he's a character that is kind of new, but I obviously, to the comic book fans, the people who read it, he's not new, but his powers and abilities, he flies, he has super strength, and he has solar power light manipulation. And obviously they're making him a younger version of him. Because in the comic books, like the first ones, he looked more like an older adult. You know, not a young adult, but an older adult. And so obviously that was one of their changes, because later on in life there are comic books where they had a younger looking teenage version of him, of Sunspot. And just so I as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, I see where they're going with this. But just to see him get captured, and I knew that, okay, this guy, these guys, these group of rebels who are anti-mutants, they have no idea how powerful this guy is. With the humans, the non-mutant ability genetic gang, right? They had these like old scrap of Centiles, which was those giant robots that were programmed to catch or kill all mutants, right? And it kind of reminded me of Spider-Man Homecoming, where you had Michael Keaton as the Vulture, and in the first scene of that movie, well, not first scene, but kind of the first scene in a sense, they were collecting the scraps from Thanos' army, and then this governmental thing, that task force that came and took over because of the alien tech, basically. And this is kind of is, except obviously this wasn't made by aliens. This is kind of made by, obviously, humans. This is just made just to get the mutants, right? And as they're beating up Roberto, and they're showing off, and in a classic Saturday morning cartoon classic dialogues, they're explaining their plan and how they're just trying to get some cash, right? But the X-Men come to rescue and save Roberto. And I tell you what, they made Cyclops such a badass. Like, this man literally. So for people who don't know Cyclops, which is nuts, right? He can shoot lasers out his eyes, and it actually hurts him more. But he literally used it just to and hold Roberto just to push back to get him out of safety. And then he, like, using combat fighting, like, I could say they're adding some UFC moves in this, which is which makes sense because that's what most people do nowadays. I mean, obviously, there's still karate, martial arts, right? But that you see these characters use in the X-Men '97 series based off the first two episodes. But they never really done this with Cyclops, and that's the point I'm bringing this up. They never really did this with Cyclops from the older '90s X-Men series, and I thought that was a breath of fresh air to see him do something like that. My favorite part in that one scene is where they got him right. They thought they got Cyclops. They tied him down, and they're like, "Let's take off his glasses, his I don't know what you call them, but I'll just call them glasses." But and he's like, "No, no, I surrender." And he just opened his eyes, and then the whole building inside, which is New York. And I just want to point out, as the that show starts, and it shows New York, and it shows the building where Cyclops did the big explosion, and it just annihilated everybody. The Daily Bugle, which that's a reference to the '90s animated series Spider-Man. And also before that before it ends, they also showed Bishop, Storm, just to name a few others. And so they're showing like almost the original X-Men members in just this one scene. And then they show us what world that they live in right now. They live in a world where Charles Xavier is dead. Cyclops and Jean, who is pregnant, is in charge of the X-Men and the Academy. Most of this episode is just about Roberto and Centiles and just seeing all the mutants for the first time in X-Men. Like, we see Wolverine, Storm, Cyclops, Jubilee, Beast, Gambit, Bishop, Rogue, and Morph. And these are just like the characters you're going to see, and they're setting them up because, again, it's been such a long time. I mean, unless like you've been watching like reruns of the old X-Men series on Disney Plus or whatever, but so it's not new. But like, I haven't really watched it. I never rewatched that series until just for this show. Like, I didn't have time, but so I get it. So like and I think Marvel knew to that in the sense so this is just kind of like episode 1, which is pretty much like an introduction, not like an origin story, but to get people to understand. Because I'll tell you what, it brought back old memories. Because here's the one thing about X-Men '97 and the X-Men series, they both are, it's like a soap opera cartoon show with superhero powers, basically. And it had all of that. And that's why I loved it. I say that for the fact that Jean and Cyclops are going to start a family. And in this episode, the idea was Jean wanted to leave and live a normal life. And as soon as they said that, it hit me. I was like, oh man, because Wolverine and Jean had a little thing in the past too. And for years, it's always been known. Like, I'm sure everybody saw the famous meme where Wolverine's in his costume, or not his costume. That's just me because I'm a cosplayer. But he had his suit on, and he's laying in his bed, and he has a photo. And now it's become a meme where they just put another picture within that photo frame, but it was just Jean and I think Cyclops' wedding picture. But I think he scratched out Cyclops' face or whatever, and he does Jean, and it was a thing, right? So I knew that, okay, they're bringing this back, and they're already starting off with this, like we're saying, okay, there's going to be some friction between Cyclops and Wolverine, because they were playing basketball or whatever, and Cyclops is like, we got to get everybody in here. We got to get things straight. Like, we got to commit to Charles Xavier's promise that we made that we're going to make mutants and non-mutant, just regular humans, coexist in this world. And he's trying to be a leader, but Wolverine, not so far away, makes a remark and says, well, too bad you're leaving us, you know. So they knew, like, Wolverine knew. I don't know how he knew, but he knew because he still has feelings for Jean. The main mission for this episode was to find Henry Gyrich. Now, he was already in prison. He's locked up. So it wasn't hard to find him, but they had to get information out of him, right? And what they did was this is very, very soap opera and it was this is like Saturday morning cheesy cartoon dialogue because, they go to the prison and they have him in like the interrogation room, right? And Henry Gyrich, he was like, "Oh, so what's it like to have all this pull now?" Like, it's like it was so cheesy how he said it, but he wouldn't talk, obviously. But luckily, Jean has the same power ability like Charles Xavier, and she can read minds and get in people's business, right? And she wore the helmet. But then she has something happens, and I think her baby has the same powers as her mom, because she goes in this world where she sees this thing where she's in her suit and she's not pregnant. She's like, what? Where's my pregnant belly at, right? And I'm like, what the hell? Like, where are we going? And of course, she's like, I don't know if she had this vision. It wasn't very clear for me. I must have missed it, but she sees this giant talking head of, I think he's like the main leader, like the main general leader of this robotic Centile. I forget the name of him, but it was talking to her, and then she realized this is Bolivar Trask, and they tried to track him down, and it was like in a desert type place. But I think his name is the Master Mode or Master Mold. That's what the giant thing was. And you know what? This is like the best. This is so Marvel. Like, this is so MCU here, because they're flying in the X-wing, right? And they're gonna track that guy down because they gotta stop him, right? They're trying to make peace, and Roberto, he's trying to run away from both of them. Like, he's not trying to get involved. Like, and the reason why is because, and then they haven't revealed it yet, but he has like a secret. He has something personal going on. He has something more important in his mind that's more important than trying to have humans and mutants coexist. Like, he must got some loved ones, or he has like a love interest that's in danger, basically. And I bet you it's one of those. But as they're flying, boom, a giant Centile just comes down, trashes them. And look, they're all falling from the sky, but luckily the ones who can fly, help Wolverine, Beast, people, Gambit, guys who, and Morph, of course, who can't fly. But let me tell you about Cyclops. What an OG badass. This guy, this is where you realize Storm, I would say Jean Grey, Cyclops, or like Omega level. Like, the Omega level I'm talking about, these three, they know, they're so good at using their abilities and powers so well. They're really tough to defeat. Like, look, I hate to say this, but Wolverine, if it wasn't for his healing ability, boy, he had been gone. He had been gone. Because why Cyclops is falling from the sky, and like, they're in their airplane. So they're way up there, right? Cyclops just uses his lasers and softens the blow to his landing. And he does that superhero landing like Captain America does, or Black Widow does as well too. Like, and he just boom. And Storm, oh my gosh, she makes ice, and then she makes a tornado and turns that tornado into ice crystals. And she chose chaos in that scene and just wrecks all those robotic machines. And obviously they got the guy. They capture him. And then this is where they have this moment, because in this episode, even though Jean wants to leave and start a family, start a new life with just him and obviously their baby, but Cyclops also feels he has to stay. And Jean feels that way too, because they want to honor Charles Xavier's, promise. They promise they're going to keep making sure, again, mutants and humans can coexist. And as they're having this moment, they're just trying to explain, like, X-Men is much bigger than them. And yes, there's a lot of work to be done, but now they're all playing basketball together. And that was it's so 90s too, right? It's so 90s. And it's so old school cartoon to do that, because that's how most Saturday morning cartoons were like. It always goes back to this one scene. And this scene was in their basketball court. And now instead of them, Jean Grey and Cyclops not playing, they're anticipating in it. But then the alarm goes off, and we come to find out it's Magneto with his awesome new suit. And he says, well, in Charles Xavier's will, I now own the X-Men and run this academy. And then it's a cliffhanger. But it's not a faraway cliffhanger, because in episode 2, the episode 2 continues in the aftermath of Charles's death. Magneto has taken it upon himself to act more heroically, using his abilities to save humans across the globe as he rescues the Morlocks from the FOOH. Despite this part of the human world wants to put Magneto on trial for his past crimes, and X-Men are divided on whether or not to trust him. Now that Magneto has arrived, Cyclops and Jean are uncertain about whether or not to leave the team. Jean privately tells Storm that she is anxious about their baby being born, a mutant. Storm understands her worries and remarks that she has wondered what it would be like to be human, but is happy about the family she has acquired as a mutant. Meanwhile, Magneto and Rogue grow closer, in part because Magneto insists that she can use her powers without harming him. The government arrives to transport Magneto to his trial, with some of the X-Men joining his side as backup among anti-mutant protesters outside the trial of its FOH members, who dons the mask of a supersuit as Executor, and which is, I thought, is the corniest name. It's like saying Executor, but it's with the X and then it's Executioner, but it's still corny. In front of the trial, Magneto gives a speech about his history as a man and a mutant, but is interrupted when the protesters breach the faculty. The X-Men tried to, stop it, and they try to calm down everybody, try to fight off, try to block people, but the Execution, he's like, nah, y'all gonna get the smoke. While Storm and Magneto protect the judge, Storm gets hit by the Executioner with a dart, which later reveals that it's filled enough with radiation to completely depower a mutant. Now that was a game changer because this sets up a lot of like possibilities to go because they have not released episode 3 yet. This angers Magneto, who transports the executioner and the judges into the atmosphere, threatening to destroy them in their lives right there and now. And you know what? He cried. He showed some tears because, this is a thing I just want to point out before. Is what I love about the X-Men and about Magneto and Charles Xavier is they both have the same idea. It's just Charles Xavier is like Martin Luther King and Magneto's like Malcolm X. And they want the same goal, but they want to do it. They approach it differently. And as a child, as a kid, you say, oh, Magneto's the bad guy. He's the villain, right? But now as an adult, I say, I don't think he's a villain. I don't think he does bad things, of course. But to see him in tears over Storm is something like, it's like you want to trust him. This is the moment where you're kind of like, I really want to trust him. You really hope for the best. Like you try to say, you know what, maybe he has changed. Maybe, he's changed. Because in this scene he ultimately showed mercy. He didn't destroy him. This obviously convinces the United Nations to give Magneto a full pardon as well as beginning a conversation to fold Genosha into their jurisdiction. And Genosha is a big important thing. Like, I don't have enough time to talk about that, but I'm going to save that for episode 3 of the Munchie Hours for that. Another thing that happened in this episode was Wolverine and Jean stayed at home, which gets complicated. When Jean goes into labor, and it's funny, Wolverine's like, where, I think he said, where Apocalypse at? And he, has his arm, claws out. And it was just funny. And she just hands him his keys and coat with her telepathic powers, right? And then he drives her to the hospital where a doctor refuses to treat her because she's a mutant. Cyclops and Rogue arrive. Rogue he says, you know what, I'll just take his ability to do that. And then she has the ability to be a doctor and give birth just in case there might be a C-section in birth, because that's a common thing. But the birth is a success, and the baby is named Nathan Charles Summer. Now, back at the mansion, Beast confirms that Storm is depowered for the foreseeable future. She decides to leave the mansion, writing a goodbye letter to the team where we see flashes of the team, Cyclops watching over Nathan, Rogue, and Magneto touching without her gloves. And Gambit is watching. He was going to give like her a flower or something. So now there's like more love triangles in this mug. And Morph and Wolverine are bonding. As Jean's finished reading the letter, the team, they refuse to accept that she's really gone. Just then the door rings, and it's not Storm, but it's another Jean who desperately needs the X-Men help. Now, oh man, there's so much I need to unwind, but I'm going to start with the first topic that I'm going to bring. Let's talk about Storm. That's what we want to talk about. Storm depowered, lost her mutant power. She's a regular human. This, to me, can go two ways. Either they're going to start a new era of X-Men as far as new members. Like, maybe some of these OG characters are going to be put to retire. and they're going to focus on other mutant characters that are going to be part of the X-Men team, or or they just find a way to get her powers back, right? I'm not sure. But you know what I think would be cool in my mind is she goes to Wakanda and she meets King T'Challa, aka Black Panther. That's what I hope. But and then they find a way, maybe using the herbs, which is that has vibranium, the same material that you use for Captain America's shield and Black Panther's suit, vibranium. I would hope that could spark and get her powers back, because they don't know how to get them back. They just know she's powerless. So there's that. And if she does, that'd be really cool. Because the one thing, like, again, now since Marvel Studios owns the X-Men franchise, who says these characters cannot make an appearance in this series? And I think that would Black Panther, King T'Challa would be the one I would want to see show up in a future X-Men episode. X-Men 97 episode, I should say. But that's what I think with that. Now, you were wondering, why did I say I think they're going to retire the OGs? I think that Marvel Animation, I think they want to play around more and have more ideas with these other characters that never got a lot of TV time within the X-Men series from the 90s, and this is their chance. And this is like a new start or new chapter, and you can use characters because you remember during, and this is about episode 2, when the anti-mutants protesters started going in and they started having a fight. Well, if you notice, Morph was shape-shifting into, a lot of X-Men characters that you recognize, from the Dark Phoenix to First Class, and then the ones with Halle Berry and Hugh Jackman. And so that to me, I don't know why it did, but that to me hinted that, okay, they're going to use new characters and add them to the team. And here's one example, because Magneto's a part of it. Psylocke, which I remember her from the movies X-Men Apocalypse, and I believe she was in X-Men Dark Phoenix. I could be wrong about that one. But in this episode 2, where Morph shapeshifted into her, it indicated to me that we're going to see that character in some way. And I believe, because in X-Men Apocalypse, she aligned herself with Magneto. So I wouldn't be surprised if she joins the X-Men 97 team in this series, which I hope so. That'd be cool. So they put that there for a reason. And to point out, she looks like, the way they put that character, drew it together, she looks like the actress who played her in that movie, which the actress's name is Olivia Munn. And to me, the way they drew her out on this episode, it looked just like her in the sense, same outfit design that she wore in the X-Men Apocalypse movie. So I really definitely hope that they do put that in there. And it would make sense because, again, she did align herself with Magneto from those live action films. And I think that'd be cool. So it would make sense to see them pass the torch to a new generation of a new X-Men team members. I mean, obviously they would probably keep like Wolverine Jubilee and stuff, but you never know. But again, they could take away Wolverine and just make a whole Wolverine animation series. That's just another possibility that they could take this. And I'm just basing off of 2 episodes, so I don't really know. No. But I thought that was pretty interesting. So there's with just that scene with Storm, leaving. It can go so many ways with this. So I'm really excited, and whatever way they go, I'll be happy with it. I just thought that'd be kind of cool. The next topic is Magneto and Rogue. So it seems like there's a love triangle between Magneto and Rogue and Gambit. And I feel sorry for Gambit because I think Gambit is always famously known to be in love with Rogue. And Rogue always had feelings for him. But obviously, if she touches anybody, she absorbs their powers, abilities, and everything else. And I just, you always root for those two to be together. I mean, I seen, when I go to Comic Cons or, when I do TikTok videos and stuff, there's always like cosplayers who recognize Rogue and Gambit as the couple, the it couple. So I get it. But it seems like Rogue is attracted to Magneto for the fact that she can use her abilities and it doesn't affect him. Like, she likes Magneto because there's somebody who can out dominate her in that type of sense. Like, and he likes Rogue because she's just hot, I guess, right? But I think what's going to happen is we're going to see Rogue make a choice. And whatever choice she makes, it's going to be like, is she going to be on Team Magneto or Team Gambit, which will represent the X-Men? So it's going to be very interesting. There's a part of me that just wants Rogue and Gambit to be the one. But now there's also a part of me that wants to see what that relationship would look like between Magneto and Rogue. So I think I'm going to lean towards Team Magneto and Rogue versus, Rogue and Gambit. I just kind of want to see that dynamic. So I apologize to all the Gambit fans out there. He's a great character and he's one of my favorites, but I really want to see where that relationship takes off between Magneto and Rogue. Now the next topic is Roberto, aka Sunspot. Now he has, again, I said he has a solar power. That's his power, solar power energy, and he can use it. And it's pretty deadly and effective when you want to go one-on-one with that person. I believe him and whoever he's friends with that he cares for, I believe they're mutants. And I also believe that he's going to be the one that's going to reshape the X-Men for the better. I think he's going to be the leader. Like, he could be the leader. I think because of the fact that he has no personal connections, like the other members have a personal connection to Magneto, to Charles Xavier, to each other, right? There's some bad blood between every one of them throughout the old X-Men animated series. But to have Roberto come in with no knowledge of it, don't really have the whole lowdown what's been going on back then and now. He's going to call out the BS out of all of them and say, what is this? Why are you guys doing this type thing, right? And I think he's going to change the X-Men. He could be like at least the leader, and maybe not the head of the academy, but I think he'll realize that what Charles Xavier's dream is better than the OG's will. That's what I think is going to happen, which I'll be okay with that because it's passing the torch. I feel like there's going to be a passing the torch within the series. That's what I'm getting, the vibes between episode 1 and 2. So that's just one thing. Now, let me give you my theory. I have a theory that Charles Xavier is not dead. I think people think he's dead, but I don't think he's dead. And the reason why is we didn't see the body. I think that he is out there somewhere. Or here's another thing. If he's not dead, I think his body's dead, but I think he is living like an AI type thing. I think this is the perfect time to use things like the Infinity Stones. This is the thing that you can do. Like this, you can make an MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is their chance to do that. Okay, I know that they had Iron Man, Spider-Man, all that crossover before in the X-Men series, but I'm saying for this particular thing, you can do some Infinity Stones. Like maybe Charles Xavier's in the Soul Stone. Who knows? Maybe Wanda can find another Charles Xavier. Because why is there another Jean Grey? Right? So this comes to my second theory. I believe that Jean Grey is from MCU Earth 616. I think that there's going to be a multiverse story within this series. And I think Wanda, who is looking for her kids, who are considered mutants, will find a way to get into this universe of X-Men 97 universe. That's what I think. That's just theory. I'm just going to put it out there. So, that's my review. If I had to give episode 1 and 2 1 out of 10, I'm definitely giving it a big fat 10. Bang. Because what a great way to kick off. 2 episodes got you on the edge of your seat, wondering what's going to happen next, making you want more episodes. This got it all, and I loved it. So, that's my review. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talk and Entertainment official channel on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that notification button so you can always be updated with all my latest uploads and content. Thank you guys, and peace out.